Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm going to start with sorry about last week. We had like a fun month we all got COVID and kids were out of school, just a crazy life, but I don't like to reschedule it, but it had to happen last week. So sorry about that. Beside that, I'm very excited to be talking about the beauty queen of Jerusalem. This book, I was saying, was a bestseller in Israel for 3 years in a row or something like that. Very, very popular among Israelis for different reasons. When they translated to English and they brought it to America, actually it's very interesting because I was reading reviews to kind of understand if some other people's appreciation of the book was the same as I had, kind of looking for validation. And it looked to me as if the person looking at the book came from some sort of a background that had some similarities, not necessarily only like Jewish background, but like even there was this woman that was Greek and she was talking about her upbringing. There was more of a connection than like just your regular like Goodreads type of review. In those cases, there were more criticism, like a 3 out of 5 star type of thing to the book. I personally really liked it. I'll say why and all of that soon, but I would love to hear everybody's appreciation of the book. Let's start, I guess, in the room and then go online or the other way around. I don't know how it works.
Go away.
Okay.
Charna.
China.
Camera's on you.
First one. Well, I was amazed at how the first chapter kind of laid out what you were going to know at the time, and it was hard to get into it. It seemed like I was on the phone with someone that just wouldn't stop talking because she went into a lot of these details, but I actually went back and read the first chapter twice.
Yeah, same. I also went back to
In the middle when Rosa, it was just so hard for me to keep reading about Rosa. It was so sad. And I remembered, wait a minute, there was someone that was revered. And is that her? And so like halfway through, I went back and read the first chapter also at the very end. Oh, and I loved going back to read the first chapter.
Everything makes sense when you go back, right?
Yeah, there's more research to do with all the different occupations of Israel, in my free time, I suppose. The different generations, I mean, one theme is, I guess, how something can be passed down, a trait.
Right.
It's not a physical trait, trauma. Okay.
If people watch Encanto, we can mix both.
Yeah, right.
It's also about intergenerational trauma. It's
And
very
then-
similar.
If this was written in Hebrew, I mean, I guess they did a terrific job on the translation because I felt like it was very detailed. So more to reflect on.
Awesome. Yeah, great points. And something we're gonna talk later. So that's great.
All right, hold on. Let's welcome. We got Dina Malko. Good to see you. I don't know if we formally welcomed you. And Faye Hoffman is joining us. Okay, so we're just going to let Faye in, and then we're going to continue our kind of round. Oh, okay.
Okay, great.
Okay, Sandrine.
So yeah, I really like the book, all the character, and I imagine I cannot wait to see it. Now that I've read the book, to see the TV series. And actually, I read a lot yesterday to the point that my eyes were, and I had like 50 pages left. This afternoon, I had nothing planned. Yes, I had nothing planned, but it was just one thing after another. I didn't finish it, but I don't mind hearing. But same thing as she was, when I was about like 50 pages left, I'm like, let me go back to the beginning because I think I'm missing. And then, when she was at the hospital, Luna. So read the first chapter, I'm like, oh my God, like I didn't remember at all
All the
that they
details.
were
Mhm.
all the details. But yeah, beautiful story, learning about, the different culture, Sephardic, Israeli, and the history of Israel. And so, yeah, great book.
All right, I'm gonna,
I'll go last.
you'll go
so
last,
if
okay.
if
So
you-
I'll jump in. I also did not finish the book,
Okay.
but I got pretty far in, and I thought it was masterful. I'm still planning on finishing it, but I also don't mind the spoiler because it's like the journey is not even the
Right,
destination.
Right, it's not.
I am shocked.
There's nothing.
I'm shocked. I didn't know what you said before. I had no idea that
Mhm.
this is a translation.
Yes,
I've done
yes,
translations,
yes.
and usually most of the time
Yeah.
translations read like a translation.
Right, no.
I mean, I think a lot of times it feels a little
Yes,
clunky. This
right.
is
Right,
just, it's a, I don't know, it's a very well-written book.
yeah.
It doesn't, I would never know there was a translation had you not said that. I mean, had I not read that elsewhere, which I didn't, but I would have not known it was a translation. I thought it's extremely well written. I'm excited about reading, finishing it. I could tell already, probably also about halfway through, that we were getting somewhere back to the first chapter. I wonder if everyone like gets triggered like around the same part. You're like, whoa, wait a
So,
second. Like,
Yeah, I had a trigger for me.
you also had a trigger.
Yeah, I'll say later.
Okay,
what
so
it
you
was.
share the trigger. So it might be that somehow, so here's my point, because like I do a lot of, I do a lot of teaching, but also part of my teaching is my ideal is to do like storytelling within teaching, not just tell a class of information, but try to like weave a narrative.
Mhm.
That's how I try to teach. I don't know if I always do it, but I try to tell a story. And like, if you can drop the information at the beginning that you can then unfold at the end, and then at the end, it all comes together, that's an amazing story.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, if this is something where when it's done, it all comes together and you understand the clues that were dropped in the beginning, that's a very cool, it's a very well
Yeah.
thought out
Yep.
experience.
Agree.
And I'll just mention that I know this is a specific, but like, I don't know, I was rooting for the blue-eyed girl, or what what they call her?
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, love is love. Let's go. Like, love is love.
It's a good conversation we can have because the next generation is with a non-Jewish Italian.
Okay.
You
So
said love is love.
there you go.
Love in the room.
Love is love. Sorry, got to run now. No, I'm kidding. All right.
So
Okay.
Exactly that, because you see how, like at some point, it's like, it should the same concept always apply.
Right.
And maybe, yes, maybe
Well, then
not.
that's continues the brilliance of this
Right,
book to be
right,
able to
right,
tease
right.
that out.
To tease that out, right.
It's just someone had to think of this story and then like timeline it out and like plot it out, and just she did a great job.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. It's an intriguing book. Okay, that's my opinion.
Now that you say the
Here's the
trigger,
I will say, you also have it?
yes, I remember.
You had the okay,
why
all
I
right.
went
Yeah,
to-
we'll all comment what was.
So let's let's
Yeah.
do the online, right?
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
do,
yeah, let's
okay,
hear
so
from
let's
everybody.
start. Eve, you want to jump in?
I couldn't put the book down. I mean, I would wake up in the middle of the night to read this thing. It was wonderful. I loved the way it was written, and until I heard you guys speak, I didn't realize it was a translation. It was just so beautifully written, and I like the complexity and the weaving of the stories, and what was almost like the intergenerational curse, if you will, or, the same sort of sad things kept happening to people, but you could see how people were shaped and they would shape the next generation. I think the other thing for me, so I'm very interested in Sephardim. So it was really nice to see that aspect of the culture. But what I didn't realize I would get from the book that I very much appreciated was that little bit of the history of the state of Israel.
Right.
So I just thought it was a wonderful book on many, many levels. Now, Jake's my husband, I've been talking to Jake about it, and he's going to read it, but Jake reads in Hebrew as well. So I'm going to suggest you read it in Hebrew.
You should read
That's
the original.
great. Oh, that's very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah. I actually asked someone to read it in like also, and they were saying that in the Hebrew it's fascinating.
Okay.
So he should read the original.
But-
I cannot read Hebrew. I like a whole book in Hebrew.
But I loved it. I could not put it down.
Okay, awesome. Let's go with Steve. Steve, jump in, please. Hold on 1 second. I think you got muted. If you don't mind to unmute, yeah.
Oh, I
yeah.
was saying, I was hoping I would be the last one you called. I'm anxious to
Order of
see
the
it.
faces.
I'm anxious to see it. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm anxious to see it as a movie, of course. I felt like the book needed a very strong editing, and I did get a lot out of it, including the Sephardic dynamic, between the generations. I was very surprised. It's not, of course, we tend to personalize anything we read, and I was putting it with my Ashkenazi background. The dynamic was nothing like all the women in my family. It seemed like these women were very fast to argue. They were they didn't have the family dynamic that I was used to, but that's not the important thing. I just felt like it needed a serious editing. I could never connect. There were too many names coming in and coming out.
One of
I like the book. I think it's going to be something wonderful on Netflix or as a movie, but I would be very selective in my friends that I recommend the book to, because it's a book that you have to want to read. The joy I got out of this book is, of course, it was Jewish, so I wanted to read it. It had to do with Israel, so I wanted to read it. But I left the book not feeling like it was a great book. Sorry.
No, that's good feedback, really good feedback. So let's continue. I'm going in order. So Dina Malka, if you feel like continuing.
Yeah, and
You're also muted.
yeah, there you go.
There.
Oh wait, hold on. You're still muted. There you go.
I'm wondering if, after hearing Steve's comments, is this like a ladies' book? Like they have a chick flick, it's a ladies' book. But I just found it riveting. And to answer, Steve's point about all the names, when I first started the book, I made like a little family tree, but then after a while, I really got it. I didn't have to keep referring back to it, I just got it. And I was just bowled over by Luna's mouth, how cruel she was. Oh, the things she said to her. I mean, it was just shocking how cruel she was. And anyhow, though, I couldn't put it down, and I loved it, and I would recommend it. As a matter of fact, now I feel bad, Steve, because I did recommend it to you.
Well, you asked if it was a woman's book, and I will say, yes, it was a woman's book, but that had nothing to do with it. I think about half the people I know are women, so it had nothing to do with it. But yes, it was a woman's book. Yeah. But I think my liking or disliking it had nothing to do with gender.
Right. I think the last one. So Faye, if you don't mind jumping in, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
No, I felt the same way as Steve did. I thought that there were too many names. It got a little bit too complicated, and it was a little distracting, and maybe a bit long in places. And like he said, it needed more editing, cutting back in some areas. I mean, that's the way I felt about it, but I like the book.
Okay, yeah, so my impression, the book was very popular in terms of just around the general population. So in Israel was a bestseller a few years in a row, definitely very well known with any Israeli that modern literature. It's a kind of new book. When then I went to read more professional critics, then they brought up certain things that I started like, yeah, that's right, that's true. The way the characters were developed, maybe not that deep, always like a little bit too negative. Overall, I really enjoyed the book. I guess some of the context helped how much of Jerusalem was in the book. Like when they named the streets, I'm like, I'm familiar exactly with the corner, and just like leaving the city through the history was really fascinating. Like when they named this city that then at the time was like so far from Jerusalem, and then it becomes like nowadays it's like almost like in the middle of the city, just like to see that evolution. And I'm Sephardic. My family is from Spain. All the Spanish words and sayings, it's exactly how my grandmother would speak. Like word by word, there's no one saying that my grandmother doesn't use nowadays. So definitely felt very familiar, and not necessarily the family dynamics, but all the sayings and all the foods. I don't know. I think like if I would ask my grandmother how her grandparents were, there was like that like cold, much more like authoritarian relationship that didn't pass to our generations. But I don't know. My grandparents' generation were all born in Turkey. They came to Latin America as immigrants out of the Ottoman Empire, and that's not in Jerusalem, but a lot of the traditions, the language, just like Jews in Russia kept Yiddish, they kept Ladino in a country where everybody spoke Arabic. They spoke Spanish, which it became the Jewish language. And a lot of the traditions, the way they celebrated things, so that brought me a lot of familiarity to it. It was frustrating to see them committing the same mistakes. I'm like, please just do the right thing, and that like it over and over. But it brings to like the first topic I want to discuss. Like the book in its fantasy kind of make it as like a curse, the curse that the men in the family are not going to love their wives, and the women are going to love someone that they don't love them back. So obviously that has like some sort of esoteric component to it, but into a reality, like if we bring it down to reality, there are many things that we get passed from generation to generation that almost determine our future in certain ways. That it's only just the way we were raised, or things that are expectations. So how did you feel about that specific piece? Was it like, this is too fake and magical, or you saw how in reality we can see certain similarities? I'm curious. And whoever wants to jump in.
I mean, it was a little bit of a, I don't know if fantasy is the right word, maybe not, bringing that curse in the beginning, okay? And then Luna, I highlighted this in my Kindle. Luna, when she was in the hospital and the baby, Gabriella, wasn't taking to her, Luna said, it was just one sentence, this is just not natural, or this is unnatural.
Right.
And I think that she even realized that.
But they need to be right.
That it's unnatural, but that was the only reference, I think, that Luna came out and said it's not natural. And I think that was brought down, but as a metaphor for other little traits that can be brought down.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not all fact. It brought it in for maybe some plot for the.
Yeah, so they make it sound like a curse, but how many things the way we relate are because our parents related that way to each other, or they related to us in a certain way, and that's how we know. I mean, there are many sources of how we learn, but like if your whole circles are in a certain way, how likely is that you're gonna just behave the same way?
Rabbi, I have a question for you, Rabbi. I'm sorry, on this point about whether it's a curse or family dynamics. What does it mean in the Bible where it says unto the third and fourth generations? What does that refer to?
That's a really good question. There's a lot of discussion in the commentaries whether or not God really visits punishment, on third or fourth generation as like a consequence. Because there is a teaching that says you don't punish children for the sins of their fathers and vice versa. So what does that actually mean? Some commentators say it means that the negative habits of one generation, it may take a few generations to get rid of. In other words, it's not like a divine punishment. It's more of like the iniquity of the parents are going to be visited on three or four generations. Supernatural or just the way it is, because the intergenerational trauma. And I think like what Ariela said is like just learn behavior. It's like, maybe if that's the model of a relationship that you've seen, then the path of least resistance is to replicate that. Also, this is before social media. We could see like other people's families, but like I think it's a little bit of that's what you know. So you know what you know. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, in
But
my own family.
as far as the biblical question, there's a lot of commentaries on that because it is a bit of a troubling verse that we're going to get you 3 generations later for. It's like I'm going to get punished for something that my great whatever did. That doesn't make sense. Like, what did I do? So again, it's maybe not punished, but it's kind of like it's going to be in the family. And at some level, you're going to have to work hard to get out of that. Not that it's impossible, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. I know in my own family, like some of the dynamics in my parents' marriage, I took on in my own marriage. And it wasn't until later that I could like step outside the frame and see, what was happening, what was recurring.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's why therapy is good.
Oh, didn't I mention that? Yeah.
No, but I do think it's a lot of like that intrageneration, like if in the Ashkenazi culture, it comes from the Holocaust or whatever it is that as Jews we lived, even as a whole, or your family in particular, it just has so much weight on the way you're gonna approach the world. And I think the book is trying to touch on it. I don't know how successful was, because again, it made it sound like a curse, and like I guess if people don't have the context, it may sound like a little bit like a fantasy, but I saw it that way. I saw it as like the power we have just to pass certain things from generation to generation.
Yeah, that's what I think also. I don't think it's like a supernatural
thing. Right?
Yeah. But how else do you frame it? I mean, you might just say it. It's like it's the curse, but you don't like the Red Sox.
Behavior.
The Red Sox couldn't win the World Series. Was it really the curse? It wasn't, but it was like also in their heads a little bit at some point.
Right.
Right. So like it's the narrative that becomes true because it's
and a lot of that is exactly. It's your expectations from reality,
right.
And that's without spoiling, but like that's what Ariela decided to change that dynamics. It's like, I'm gonna get someone who loves me back. I can do this. If I forgive, it was much more deeper than just like, it's a curse. It's like, we all have so much trauma that we haven't let go. Like we don't forgive people. We have all this trauma in our lives that the women in my family have been living with. I'm gonna free myself from it. And that's what really like break the curse one way or the other. Any other comments about that concept of either curse or generational, intergenerational trauma, or however we want to call it?
Could it also be referring to some other literature, Jewish literature about Dybbuk's? Did I say that right? I don't know. I'm throwing it out there.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Right. Like there's so much superstition also in the Sephardic, in the Ashkenazi world as well, but like everything is, it seems you like, oh, I did this, that's why my kids are suffering like this. And like there's a lot of that concept.
Who was the one that was like this this curse release, or she was that
The mother of, right. And we had someone like that, the same concept, the mother of Gabrielle, or
yes.
she was like, you would go
She
to
was the
her to
healer.
take your
Anxiety, was it anxiety or something? Worries?
your you're like, even
honest.
today in Jerusalem, there's this women's that they will take like the eye, like the bad eye that people give to you, they will take it out, like today in Israel. It's part of that. It's just coming from the same, giving a lot of power to the everything around God and not God itself.
Mhm.
But it's true. It's reflective of the culture. It really is reflective of the culture. So that was the one thing that I thought a lot about it. Like I thought at some point I was upset of how it was presented, but then like it made sense in my head at least.
Also, is it, like you decide not to pursue the blue eyes or to find her, but
Right,
like,
right,
is
right.
it right to after marry someone and treat her like he treat her
Right,
at the
right,
end, he even call her woman,
Right.
Yeah,
Like, without
that's
a
how
name.
he refer to her.
Right.
So is it,
the resentment. Yeah.
Right.
is it better to marry someone he said never love one day of his life?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Harsh.
That was that. I mean, all the love stories, Gabriel, and then David has the same thing. He fell in love with an Italian woman while he's in Europe, and he just know it's if for both it's only because of the repercussions they have on their family. It's not a personal decision. It's not a personal, even it's not their own self and their own convictions, because it may be that you fall in love with someone and you have your own convictions that will tell you that's not the right person, so I'm going to choose someone else. But in this case, it's not even that. They were sure that person were the right one. It's only to please their parents and name and keep the honor of the family, which had all the power at that time. A lot of stories through the book is how they're losing that family honor, name, or yeah. So I don't know. I mean, we can see this is a debate that can go from the point of like Judaism and halacha. Like someone will say, yeah, the woman who is Ashkenazi is okay, but the woman that is not Jewish, maybe it's not okay. But at the end of the day, is a little bit the same concept from the point of the book, is loving the person that your family will not accept. And what is the repercussion? It's a whole generation of someone married without love, basically, in this case.
Mhm.
Did you feel that Jerusalem was almost like a character in the book, that was the idea? It was always seen as as loved. Everybody had, till the last generation, till Gabriela, everybody had this like strong love of Jerusalem. And then like the relationship with the city changes. I was like, I need to go away. All the negativity that was there. How did you think that evolution went from like, I would never leave Jerusalem, this is the city, almost as important as my life. And then as the book continues, it becomes like part of the curse, part of the negativity almost. Like I felt a little bit sad at the end when she's like, I need to leave this place. I don't know if anyone had some impression on that evolutions through the book. No, just me. Yeah. That
Maybe
was
the market, Machane.
Machane Yehuda.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, I wish it would have kept it till now. Those places are very
Yes.
expensive.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That was sad. I mean, it definitely felt that bad thing after bad thing. As a reader, that was hard. I was like, where is the positive pieces of the book? And I mean, it ends on a good note, but it definitely feels heavy. I will say when I went back, when they start getting wealthy and they moved to King George, and they started describing the apartment, the pieces of the furniture they describe are the same as when Gabriela was a little girl and the grandmother died, and they're like giving away all this stuff, and she's like, I want that piece. And she described the lions in a little
The
no,
dresser.
the dresser.
Or whatever the arm.
Right. So then in whatever, 200 pages later, the grandmother is buying the furniture for the house. And they say, and the dresser had the two lions. So at that point, I was trying to go back to reread the first chapter of the book. Yeah, and I did. And they had a lot of like hints through that. It was hard to connect, but I'm also curious how it's gonna be done on the big screen. That was something.
But it's out already in Israel.
Yes.
So I
last
You
did-
could already watch it.
Nice.
This summer. Yeah.
Okay, cool. In Hebrew, maybe. That's
Yeah,
nice.
in Hebrew.
Interesting. What do you think about the male characters in the book? Because definitely the women characters were the main characters, but Gabriel and David and the other, there were some important male characters. What did you think about them?
Mm.
Anyone on the online crew want to jump in? At the male characters?
Well, I liked handsome Eli Cohn.
Ellie Cohen, right?
Eli Cohn, he was a highlight. Their marriage was a highlight. But I don't know, some of the men, I guess, were two-dimensional characters. They weren't, developed like the ladies were.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
they were all like before the marriage and
Right,
before and after. Like
right.
David,
Right,
we don't find out about him. I mean, his true self
right, right.
until they're married and until like the first year of
Right.
their marriage. At first, we thought, wow, it's perfect for
For her, right, at the beginning, we were happy, right?
Yeah. And also the guy that was paralyzed, he was
Giddy,
perfect.
yeah, he
Yeah,
was,
he did no wrong.
right, they were two-dimensional, they were either
Yeah.
perfect or pretty good. I mean, Gabriel, you can kind of understand where his pain came from, but definitely not a good character,
Mhm.
right? Yeah, I did feel that way as well. Any other comments on the male characters of the book?
I think some of the men were second nature to the book, but Eli seemed to be more in the book than the others were.
Right.
They didn't seem to play a bigger character than handsome Eli.
Right, right. Yep, absolutely. He was definitely a highlight. How did you feel about Luna? Because the book, I mean, after all, is named after her, the beauty queen of Jerusalem. Did you forgive her? Did you think she was the bad guy in the story, or I'm not gonna say anything till I hear other people, but how did you feel about her?
Was hard to see her in a really good light after that whole episode with the physical fight of almost tearing her mother's hair out.
Right, right.
That was really disturbing. I mean, that is from her core.
That's a
The
worse
hatred.
thing. I agree.
Mm.
I agree.
Worse
Worse than like giddy.
baby, she never tried with Gabriella
right.
either.
Never tried.
And it's almost not surprising, that she right away, she shows sign of like she's not going to be a nurturing
Yeah.
mother.
Even
Yeah.
when she was pregnant, it was all negative. Any
She
other
seemed-
appreciation of
seemed to be-
Luna?
She seemed to be more interested in her own looks and than she was in anything else. I mean, as she was getting older and as she was getting worse as far as her body, she pointed out her legs were not as beautiful as they used to be, and why aren't they? When she
Right.
just felt kind of one-dimensional.
Yeah, again, for sure. It's interesting because when she cheated on her husband, which as spectators should be something that would make you very upset with the character, or should, in theory, it almost felt like, oh, there is humanity inside her. It was almost like she has a connection with someone. It's real. And it's not about necessarily their looks. It's about something deeper than that. So I almost felt it was like a way of redeeming the character rather than being more punishable. But I don't know if that was, I kind of questioning myself for thinking the way, but it was that feeling of like, oh, there is a human. It's not just like shallow character. I don't know, how did people like react to that relationship?
What calmed her down at home.
Right, it was good for everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
I think, did she start her affair before her husband, or did he start his? I think
She started first.
Yeah.
Yes, she started first.
Hmm.
It's an open marriage. It's very common right now.
Yeah. Oh,
Right.
February 2022.
Right. No, but she started first. Also, we can discuss when did that first started, because she used to go to the taxi station and spend hours with him without David knowing. And even though there was no physical relationship for a while,
mhm.
that it's in my book still cheating. So, but there was definitely zero connection with the husband spiritually or either any other way. And she did have it with this injured kid who was younger than her by certain years. And
But she was also injured. It's like what brought them together was this terrible situation and almost like this disfigurement in a way.
Right.
They were almost like their true selves without artifice because they were suffering. So, I mean, to me, that was very interesting. It was
Right.
very authentic.
yeah, it seemed to be like a real relationship. And that's what brought them together. So a certain way, I was like almost relieved that they had that. It wasn't strange. I don't know if the author was trying to make us feel like not every infidelity is bad, but like it definitely, that's how I felt when that happened. And it was like a little bit shocking, but to me it was like, okay, at least she feels something for someone. And it's not only because the way that person looks or because that person, it's deeper than that.
And it was nice to see her take care of him and to nurture someone. I mean,
Right.
really to see that side of her.
Right, when we saw her as super selfish till then, this is the first time she actually truly sacrifices herself for someone.
You're saying that even in an action that would seem to be vilifying, like this is, maybe it's redeeming her character. almost.
Right, and because of the not nature of her character, almost felt redeeming. Yeah,
Right.
like yeah, I don't know.
And she had a social support. She had a
Right,
lot of
with
people
the-
that knew
That's true.
cover
Right.
for them. So she had friends out there.
Right, that was her social circle and her social, yeah. Absolutely.
No, I wanted to backtrack when you asked about the different men in the book, and I was saying that that their characters weren't developed. But I remember now, I think it was no, the one who married into that loveless, marriage. He kept seeking the forgiveness of his mother, no matter how mean the mother was to him. He kept going to see her and
Right,
wanting her to visit and see the grandchildren. And he spent his life wanting her forgiveness and relationship, even though she'd done him wrong terribly by, hitching him up with the, into that loveless marriage.
right. And the interesting thing, and this is how the real curse goes from generation to generation. At some point in the book, he says, this is a punishment because I killed my father. Like, this is what his mom has been trying to put in his head from the beginning. He's like, what is she talking about? This is not true. But then in the moments of challenges, he's like, I know I deserve this because I killed my father. So it seems that somehow he just believed exactly the same that everybody else believes, you know, didn't depart from the dynamics. Another kind of redeeming piece of Luna is the relationship with the sisters, the three sisters.
Oh, yes.
It was hard to fit it in the way she related to other people, but they definitely had this very much close and love relationship. What was anyone's comments or take on that, the three sisters relationships? Was a nice part, at least, of the story. Any favorite daughter?
Like the second one, like
Rachelica?
yes.
Yeah.
Not because I'm from a family of 3 girls and I'm the
you're
second
the
one.
middle.
I think not because of that.
But you know,
Yeah.
could see like she
Yeah.
was always the one trying to
Right.
bring back
Bring the
everybody
people, right.
together.
Yeah.
Is that a trait of second thought in daughters? Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe.
So, and when you know, when I read back also about Luna, and remember now about the, you know, they lost the first son and maybe there was a lot of, you know, pressure on her. Like,
Right.
I cannot
Growing
imagine
up,
if you
right,
lost,
right.
growing up.
Right.
So maybe her worries also, you know, from maybe she was like suffocating a little bit from dad and the mom.
I also think like the dad didn't love the mom. And so how does the daughter have that respect
Right.
for the mom?
Right.
No respect.
That's
Right.
what I'm saying, but like what, how is she supposed to have respect? I mean, like she's not treated like a mensch, like what's the, like, yeah,
It's hard to.
super hard. It's like, I think that I was just thinking that's gives an insight into how she grows up. And she doesn't listen to her mother, right? She screams at her mother, she throws tantrums and she drives her mother crazy. But like, okay, I'm not excusing it. I'm just saying like the modeling that she had, her mother was never treated as a respectable person in the family. It was just like, you know.
The mom has no self-esteem at all. She doesn't, I mean, she's not nice with Luna, but you know, she's still calling the dad like querido,
Right.
in spite of him calling her woman. Or this kind of,
Right.
So, and finally, I forget what happened. She said, "Oh, finally!" Or when her brother come back.
So
When
there
her
is
brother come back,
one
she said,
scene,
finally,
right? There's one
God,
scene that God, she says the Messiah is coming.
Yeah.
There's one. She, in that case, the father reprimand Luna for being very disrespectful. And this is what it should have been all along. But at least at the end, he does show some sort of respect for his wife. A little too late, but I guess better than not showing it at all. Yeah, definitely that. One thing also, I mean, they showed how Gabriela reacts to her mom after she's dead at the end of the book. And we didn't see that with Luna and her mom. So we don't know whether it was that sort of forgiveness or almost like trying to get closer. But I guess that's a lot of what frustrated me of the book, is that they had the urge of doing things that were the right things, and they would not do them for some other reason, either because they had not forgive the characters, but I at some point started like highlighting all the times I said, and I wanted to hug her, but I didn't, or he wanted to, like they were about to, they had the instinct to do the right thing, but they didn't execute it because something that had happened in the past. Or I just wonder how much of that in real life happens. It's like at some point, if you really love someone and maybe they did something to you, whatever, but like you hope that you let it go and move on and have a healthy relationship, but not in this family. Like the healthy relationships didn't happen till people died. And they had the urge, like Gabriela says, I wanted to hug my father, I wanted to do this, but my brother, but it just doesn't happen. And it over and over again, we say generation from generation, from Gabriel to the mother, that at some point they wanted, but never happens. And it keeps happening that there is something inside them saying, no, you cannot have a good relationship with this person. But these are natural relationships, a mother with a son, a brother as a sister. Like it shouldn't be that hard to execute on them. And they all of a sudden, like in the book, they seem very much forbidden relationships, stuck, right? So that was also a hard part. It's like, just do it, just get over it. And that's why the end is so redeeming, because she all of a sudden wants closeness with her mom. She kissed the grave.
Yeah.
And she's ready for love. She's ready for happiness. But it almost needed to happen. I don't know. Steve, do you have any comments on the characters? I love to hear both sides of the story.
Well, not really, but I was just thinking something because it is getting close to 9 o'clock.
Right.
The book, The Beauty Queen of Jerusalem. I know it was a success. It sold many thousands of copies, but I was thinking, as in the last 5 or 10 minutes, had the title been different, I feel like it would have had a much, much greater readership. I didn't read this book until I spoke to Adina, started telling me about it and telling me the content. If it had been another name, The Sins of the Mother, Generations to Follow, it could have come up with 100 other names that would have attracted male readership.
Right.
But this did not. And I just wonder why, again, I'm thinking a good editor would have said this. Yes, of course, it starts out with the beauty queen, her legs, she couldn't get up, blah, blah, blah. That has nothing to do with it. The story itself could have had a different title that would have truly increased the readership. So that's what I was just thinking, not about the specifics.
What is the name in Hebrew? Let me check. You're looking it up right now? Yeah. Rabbi Ari is checking the name in Hebrew. I'm not curious too, because at some point also I was like, is it really the main character of the book? She was just one more of the same. She didn't make any change in her life. The daughter is the one that actually takes this cures or like trauma, however you want to say it, and decides to do something. And she had to go through cocaine and London and boys and whatever. The healing process could have been different, sure, but it's healing at the end. And
it seemed unimportant. And when the book came out, the first 2 or 3 weeks, I didn't order it just because of that. So like, of course, who knows? Maybe.
Interesting.
I'm just guessing that the readership would have been considerably larger if people knew from the very beginning that it's not about a beauty queen.
Right.
Can I say a few things?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, here's the thing.
Okay.
First of all, it's breaking news for me. The Hebrew title of the book is called Malkat Hayofi Shel Yisrael, which means the beauty queen of Jerusalem. But I just saw this, maybe you guys know this, the Fauda and Shtisel people are going to make this.
Yeah.
And who's the guy? Who's one of the characters?
Oh, really?
This guy. This guy from Shtisel. The guy that we like.
Oh, wow.
Oh, he's Gabriel? Oh, there you go. So there you have it. All right, they chose somebody who we know.
And that's also from the
Kiva.
Baker and
Kiva.
the Beauty. I think Beauty is also
Uh-huh.
the-
Nice.
I was annoyed at that because she definitely is the longest in terms of pages because you see all her life
Who's this?
from beginning to end. Luna.
Luna,
The-
yeah.
But she's not the main, in my book, she's not the main
I
character.
think let's see the
No,
same.
not at all.
Yeah, and
No.
it's
But
right.
she sets them on their path. I mean,
Yeah,
and that's the main character. The path that they all took stemmed from her.
Right. So it- the first,
Ariel, who is the main character?
Wait.
If it's not the beauty queen,
so for me, Gabriella is the one who sets the tone because she's the one who wants to discover it. And she's the one, I mean, then it goes into the book, but like, I always saw it from in my mind while I was reading it, it was always Gabriella was the listener. That's how I read it. And then I don't know if you saw it, like the first paragraph in which she was born goes back to first person.
Yes.
And it says, and I cried when I went to, and then I'm like, oh, wow. Like right now, it's changed to first person. She's back. She's the voice. She was telling you the story of her family. And then every time she would mention something about the baby Gabriela was her. So she would say, and I didn't want to say Ima. It wasn't like Gabriela didn't want to say Ima. It was her.
Right. Yeah.
So I saw her as always like the passive voice telling the story. But definitely Luna, I mean, she's one of the main characters, but I don't know.
And I noticed in the beginning also when the aunt was telling some of the backstory.
Right.
Gabriel's sister, there was quotes within quotes.
Right, exactly.
So it's like, oh,
Yeah,
you
then
know,
it
who's
gets a little
talking?
bit, right. That gets a little bit.
yeah.
And that's what triggered me, that when she was born, at some point it went back to her being
Right.
the narrative. And I
The
was like, wait a minute, when
The
did we
moment she's
jump?
born, she goes back to
So
first.
that's
person.
when, when she was born almost, that I went back to chapter 1 and,
That's
thing
when you
I
went back.
read
Okay,
is,
interesting. Right. remind
my
you of
mother
her,
Luna
right.
passed away shortly before my 18th birthday.
Right,
and
right,
I'm like,
right,
then I read the whole chapter 1.
Right.
because-
Yeah, I also reread the chapter 1, but it's, I mean, it's a good question. Is who you have in mind while you're reading the book. I had Gabriela in mind, and she is the one who had the transformation. Like her character is the one that actually changes the more. Like Gabriel was born and died. You don't see a big change in his life. Many of the characters, even like the grandmother, either she suffers and this and that, but like there's no like a path of trying to find themselves and trying to change kind of where they come from to be happier. That journey doesn't happen in anyone beside Gabriela. That's why I saw her more as the main character. But yeah, there's definitely, I mean, Luna is an interesting one too. Yeah, absolutely.
And also, like, I know you speak Spanish. I speak Spanish too, so I was able, it didn't bother me the word in Spanish, but I was wondering,
Right.
someone who doesn't, because
They translate right out.
I didn't get it. Some of the phrases I didn't get, but it sounded like authentic as I was reading it. No, I liked reading it. It was like fun to
Right.
read.
But usually
if I didn't
they
understand
said
Yeah,
like,
you got the concept.
right, like you,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
they were saying Miskenika, which that's actually Hebrew. It's
Like
right, Miskenika, right, poor man, poor woman,
Right.
like right after they would try to do the translation. Not word by word, but like at least that
Concept. Yeah, the
concept.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I felt okay. with
habas
that.
con arroz, like the
I
food.
actually thought it was so it was a good question. I actually thought it was a feature, not a flaw. I liked it. Even
You
if I
liked
didn't
it.
get all the
Right.
words,
Yeah.
I liked it because it made the book sense. It
More
was just
realistic.
another, felt a little real, it felt like
Yeah.
authentic.
didn't bother your reading. Like, you didn't
No.
have to look up.
No.
or-
Nah, I didn't.
No,
I read on Shadow Sauce. so I
Right.
didn't look up anything.
And
yeah,
this is a little detail, but it kind of bothered me. It was when Gabriella was in London
Okay.
or England, and it said Pink Floyd was in the background. And why Pink Floyd? Okay, right? Well, and I guess that brings it to the 70s.
Right.
Well, I wonder if that was a Easter egg, they call it, like a hidden message
Right.
to bring it on, like to Israel,
time,
to
right.
modern times, because Roger Walters is the biggest anti-Semite
Right.
Semite there is.
Yeah.
Like, but why Pink Floyd? So maybe it was
So
a
interesting.
little hidden
Funny.
message alluding to, modern times. I don't know. It just bothered me.
Yeah, I think they use
But-
it as a way to bring you up to date which year, because it wasn't clear. I mean,
Yeah.
we knew it was after 67, like the war, so we knew it was around then, but
I suspect what you're saying, because everyone knows who Pink Floyd, who that guy is.
Yeah, they
He's-
should.
He's the biggest anti.
right.
Or it could just be, that's what you listened
I
to
mean, they
when
could
you
have,
were getting high.
right. They could have
you
said the
know. Right.
Beatles, they could have said someone else.
Not
They
me.
didn't need. Which music did you choose? No. No, yeah.
I mean, I remember it in college.
Was it triggering that she went back to cleaning houses? Like somehow that was almost like I don't know, it had a lot of importance in the family. Like it showed where almost like a dignity thing. Like you don't, this is what you don't do as a hermosa family. I
It's close
No,
to-
that isn't true. I mean, Nona said to little Gabriel, he said like, if push comes to shove and you have to clean people's houses, there's no
Right.
indignity in that.
dignity, right? There's no, yeah, I wrote that down actually too. Right, there's no job that is, right, exactly.
Mhm.
And
yeah.
for the English.
From the English.
English,
English.
English, yeah.
Yeah. Um,
And it's toilets, like specifically as like,
Right.
you clean the whole house. I mean, that's part of the job, I understand, but like it was specifically, that is the part they,
Well, that's the
Very-
worst part.
Very
Yeah,
demeaning. Yeah.
worst part.
yeah.
Was having Pink Floyd in the background, did that demonstrate the depths to which she had sunk, Gabriel, like the self-loathing and,
She had lost any connection to her roots at some point. Like, obviously inside her, she was the same person in a journey, but it seemed that there was like whatever was around, it was okay. And yeah, I wish, I mean, to know how that relationship with her and Abnon actually goes.
Yeah.
Maybe the show, it's gonna get a little bit into it,
Oh.
From there.
The
right.
sequel.
the sequel, right?
I didn't read the last 50 pages, but it seemed like a lot happened in the last 50 pages.
There
So
is a
just
journey,
like,
the actual
Yeah,
journey.
you missed a lot.
is it
Right.
no, but like, is it like too much, or did
No,
they go like too fast in those
she,
last pages? Or
I think it's a journey, but at least there's some healing. There is some actually going through the pain. Like you need to go through the pain to come out.
Yeah.
If you don't actually do the work, it doesn't.
You have to hit bottom.
So, right,
She really
exactly.
is,
She
yeah,
really
she
does.
hit
Kabbalah.
bottom.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, so that's how I see it. I mean, did she have to do everything she did? Probably not, but it was almost as like when you just hit bottom.
Mhm.
And the sisters, that the level of responsibility, and that you see a lot in Jewish families, Sephardic families, but from the neighbors, and they would go and travel, and like anything they needed, they were there for each other with all the baggage, not without it, but the daughter was away for 2 years. It doesn't matter. The aunt and the father and for family, anything. So that's why also the Mercada, the way she broke relationship with the son was a little bit confusing. Though I need to say, when she knew her son needed her, she was there. She was there in a weird, like her own way, but she was there for the son. In the time she knew the son, yeah.
Well, she actually brought the curse on herself
right.
too. By setting him up with Rosa.
Right.
And blaming him.
Yeah, self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right,
Yeah.
right, absolutely. So yeah, but happy to hear all the different opinions on the book and really appreciate the time today. It was fun. Like we can say that. I read it twice, but definitely it's a fun read and there is some, I guess we're all gonna get together after the show and we can discuss what we like about it.
I just read the show's not going to do all 4 generations. It's only doing 2.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
To Gabriela
one-
and Gabriela.
It didn't say names, it just said the one.
Oh, so maybe it doesn't even get to Gabriela.
No, it does. The says the one by the end of the Ottoman Empire and the one at the beginning through the 1930s. It doesn't. I don't
So
think it
that's
goes
Gabriela
all the
and
way to
Rosa
mine.
with the 3 daughters.
Yeah.
But maybe
I think
that
so.
leaves it open for season 2, 3, and 4.
That's
Oh,
right.
right, right,
Yeah,
right.
that could be it. That could be it. Right. Right.
a
Season
good
1
point.
might only go.
Right,
Right.
right.
That's true.
But that's also interesting, like the way, last thing I promised, but like how the dynamics between Arab and Jews before 48 were much more healthy than
So
between
Yeah.
Jews and whoever was the oppressor outsiders force, because we knew that we were both part of the land back then, you know. Many things have changed, but definitely interesting to see that. So I know, Charna, you started the next book. Maybe you want to say something,
Oh, yeah.
but the
Wait,
name,
yeah,
the name is a coincidence. So the next book is called The Ice Cream Queen of Orchard Street. Totally different. This is an immigrant story, actually from the Ashkenazi side of the world into the States. So it has that American component as well. Do you want to tell us like the first few pages?
Well,
Are you enjoying it or something?
yes. Adele read it.
Yeah, I've already
Oh,
read it.
really?
Oh,
Awesome.
nice.
Adele, you're
I
My-
read it a really long time ago too.
My sister-in-law read it and said it
Yeah.
was wonderful.
interesting.
Oh, good.
Okay,
We got
okay.
a winner. All right, good.
Okay, good.
Good.
I hope everybody enjoys it, and whoever read it already, good for you guys. That's so fun.
Read it again. So
Read it
but
again.
1 second. So do you want to share anything or people? It's good. You're
No,
like,
she's
Yeah,
enjoying it.
It's good. It's really good.
Yeah, it's good.
To Gabriela and the
How,
family. 'cause I
books are
felt-
so powerful. Like you work so connected, right?
Yeah, and it's lighter, but
Right, it's
there's
lighter.
still some time
It's lighter.
travel,
nice.
Yep.
not as confusing. A little, yeah, the story's a little bit more linear.
Right,
So,
yeah.
but Adele could,
There's some of the
She could give-
challenges.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, good.
Adina Maka, you want to, without giving away plot, could you, anything
Oh, do I want to
wanna-
say anything about
share
the ice cream queen?
about the book or?
Oh, you mean,
Read it.
wait.
No,
about-
I'm just not, no,
about which-
anything that you want to share before we sign up?
Should people
Oh.
read it or not?
Thumbs up or thumbs down?
I hope she's.
Oh, thumbs up. Definitely. I would really recommend it. See, I recommended it to Steve. I would recommend that to, I think it was a great read and a real page turner. And I could really identify with a lot of the heartbreak and the mistakes and the missed moments. And it really drew me in. It was very cathartic for me also.
Okay, good. Okay, awesome. So
Awesome.
I think the question that remains is, should we stick with the original date, which is in 3 weeks?
So it's a quickish
Yeah.
read, but I don't, 3 weeks may be too little. I don't know. I'm up for whatever. people
I'm up
say.
for, I'm also up for whatever. Like I can, I'm good to keep it. Let's do a quick like raise of hand. Who thinks we should keep the date?
Oh, I think we should.
I'm
I
happy
think we
with that.
could, yeah.
Okay, it looks like we have a majority that's saying
What's the date?
Is it
What's the-
20th, right?
it's the 20th. Is there a conflict on that date?
I don't think so.
Let me take a quick look. I mean, I don't- it shouldn't be. Do you have something? Oh, it's the festival?
Oh, it's President's Day weekend. Let's move on to the 27th.
Oh, it's the holiday weekend? Is that what it is? Okay, one second.
Monday,
Let
I
me,
mean, the kids don't
No.
have school, but
let me just,
Holiday.
anyway.
one second. Let's see.
Is it President's Day or something?
February, oh, it's President's Day
President's Day,
weekend.
So kids don't have. school.
Oh, that's no problem.
That's the problem.
So Purim is later because we have an extra month.
We have time.
Purim-
So one second, let's think about this. That is, Ariela, how are you with President's Day weekend? Is that, it might be touch and go? You, because the
don't
kids
have
are out of
Monday and
school.
Tuesday, actually.
Uh-huh. Oh, so you might be,
Um,
okay. Yeah,
How did I know it? If we keep it, I'll be here. So whatever people prefer. We can do it. Yeah, we can, anyone who's away and wanna.
right, we could offer, right, we offer Zoom anyway, so if somebody's out of town, they could just tune in for an hour. Okay, so I think, are we good with that Sunday, not to move it? Are we good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we should keep it.
Awesome.
That'll, so if you haven't read it yet, I'm in that category. I'm in the category of not even having the book, so I'm gonna get the book and I'll get on it. And then you guys, everyone should get on, everyone can
Yeah,
take a read.
It's a fun, or hopefully people will enjoy it.
It's a fun book.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
That's the first goal. Then
It's based
hopefully we
in-
have a nice
Is
conversation.
it based in the US?
Yeah, yeah.
Domestic, okay.
Yeah.
Portrait Street.
Arch-
Oh, okay, there you go.
Specifically.
Nice.
Yep.
Okay, all right, final words for a
Yeah,
while.
no, yeah, thank you so much, everybody. I think thumbs up. I mean, it was a fun book, but
Yeah.
it's very interesting to hear everybody's comments and open to, our minds of the book. So thank you so much for being here.
All right, thank you, Ariela, appreciate it. Appreciate
Thank
all of you.
you.
Have a good night. We'll see you
Thank you.
guys soon.
Thank
Night.
you.
Everybody,
Bye.
Lila Tov.